In the name of Allah, the most beneficent and the merciful. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome to our course Cross-Cultural Communication. Before our mid-exam, we have completed lecture, I think 5 lectures, and today we will discuss our lecture number 6. And the topic of our today's lecture is barriers to intercultural communication. So let's move on our to barriers to effective communication. What are those barriers? We will discuss. But before, we need to understand this point that whenever different people communicate with one another, it doesn't mean that everything is okay and everything is understandable. A speaker, whatever what he or she is saying, the hearer and the listener is capable to understand each and everything. So it doesn't mean in every case. So there is a Southeast Asian proverb that says misunderstandings do not exist, only the failures to communicate exist. So it means that the problem is with the speaker, and the problem or issue could not be with the hearer or the listeners. It is also not exactly correct. Sometimes speaker is capable to make communicative process in a productive way or in a very good way, in a very effective way, but there are some issues with the listener or hearer. Here we can understand this Urdu poetry. हम दुआ लिखते रहे वो दगा पढ़ते रहे एक नुक्ते ने महरम से मुजरिम बना दिया. So the problem could be created not only with the speakers but hearer or listeners also can get the wrong point of view, and that is not exactly according to the speaker. So here we can understand that not only the issues could be created by the speaker but also with the hearer. So there must be a two-way communication process, the cooperation of the, the community people who are communicating. That communicative process will be easier if both speaker and hearer will try their best to make communication process an effective process. Communication is the heart of all cross-cultural interaction. Culture is communication. It may be seen as a continuous process of communicating and reinforcing norms. So people are communicating, they are in the process of reinforcing their own, not only reinforcing, we can say they are expressing their own norms and values and traditions when they interact with other people, when they communicate with other people, their lifestyle, their way of walking, their way of talking, their way of eating, a lot of things they are experiencing with the they are sharing with other people. So if they do not communicate, where we can find out the culture? There's no existence of culture without any communication. So communication, the process of communication is performed among the people, and those people will make or will, what we can say, express their culture also. So culture and communication, there are the interlinked, or culture is the, what we can say, culture, communication is the heart of culture. So if there is no communication, no prevalence of any culture will be possible. Only mute people or silent people, how much they will be effective in regarding spreading of their culture or norms and traditions and values. So these are the interlinked with each other. Communication involves transmitting message verbally or non-verbally to another person who decodes or translate or interpret these messages by giving them meaning. So these messages may be sent by conscious intent or not, and may include information about both the actual content of the message and the relationship between those involved in the communication process. So the process is completed by coding, transmission, decoding, and finally feedback. Here we can see the typical communication process, or what we can say, there are some sort of problems or communication breakdown. So what could be the effect on the hearer or the listener, and in what way this cycle will be affected? First of all, from the left side, sender, we can see the sender who encodes message, who sends a message through any channels. It could be verbally, it could be written, it could be by email, or it could be by call, phone call, or a call, or face-to-face communication. What sort of channel he or she is using as a speaker or as a sender. Then this message is received by the receiver, or by the hearer, or by the listener, or who is attending the call, or who is attending this process of communication. So if between this encoding and decoding, if this between this process there is some sort of disturbances or interferences, or there is some sort of noise, the communication process will be affected a lot. So after encoding or decoding, if the channel is smooth and there is no disturbance, no noise, and no interferences, so then the message will be understood by the hearer or by the listener in a very well way, and the actual process will continues. Then the receiver or the hearer will again send this message, and that will be called feedback, because he has listened or he got some message. Now the action reaction of that action, or the message, the reply of this message, or the feedback of that message is delivered by the receiver or hearer through another message. Or then after that, then the sender again hearer's message. So again the process start in the next circle or in the next cycle. So misunderstanding often occurs in the transmission of the message, encoded by the sender and decoded by the receiver. Noise or interferences occurs along the way, and the result can be distortion or misunderstanding. It could be reply or the observed behavior as a result of receiving the message. So if there is no noise, everything is smooth, channel is clear, so there are most probably chances that the communication process is going on in an effective way. Otherwise there will be communication breakdown, there will be some barriers to conduct this communication process in a good way. It may be dangerous to assume that others will necessarily decode our message in the way that we intended. Yes, do not do this mistake, that whatever you are saying, whatever you are giving, what sort of message you are conveying to the listener or the hearer, it doesn't mean that every time he will be able to understand it. Exactly what are your intentions? So if there is a noise, or there is some disturbances, or maybe the level of your talk is higher as the level of your speaker, hearer or listener, this could also be dangerous. So talk or speak with the other persons according to the level of their competencies, or maybe there are some other reasons involved. So we must be careful about assuming that the other person is understanding our point of view or not. So be careful about this one. So never assume that our hearer or listeners, they are always understanding or in the position to understand our point of view in exactly what we have intended or what our intentions are. So it's therefore important to try to check how our message have been interpreted by the receiver. So we must be careful about own techniques of delivering a message. We must be careful and we think about these techniques. When we communicate, there are some problems even while staying at home with our communication processes. going on with our siblings, with our parents, with our other friends, etc. When we see that although the language is same, the context is same, we have same exposure, so all the despite of the fact, still there are some sort of misunderstanding, and sometimes we have to give justification. No, 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 I didn't mean that, I didn't mean this one, and I didn't mean that one. So if the language is same, exposure is same, context is same, and there are some problems could be created. Think about the situation when the language is different, exposure is different, context is different. There are more and more chances of communication breakdown, or communication process maybe could be affected in this way. So when we do communication, there are needs to understand some 2 points here. Understand how a message may in fact be misinterpreted. We are talking in the foreign culture or in the foreign context. We are staying in abroad, and we are in foreign culture context. So think about this point. How a message may in fact be misinterpreted. Sometimes voice problems, sometimes speed of our talk, it could be affected, or sometimes distances too much between speaker and hearer, or sometimes there is some sort of noise, some sort of distractions or disturbances. So we need to understand how much clearly we convey our message. Again, modify our behavior to account for this in order to be prepared to correct any misinterpretation, and if necessary, remedy the situation. Yes, who does this one? No one do this one, because we don't think about, we just convey our message and we think that it's this our message is conveyed in an exactly accurate way, and the next person will be able to understand each and everything without any disturbance. So no, it doesn't the matter in every situation. More, we need to modify our behavior if we feel there are some sort of misinterpretation or misunderstanding, or there is a lack of communication process, or there are some sort of communication breakdown. So we need to modify our behavior. We need to maybe we need to maybe high volume, to make our volume rather high, or maybe we need to speak in a slow voice, sorry, in a slow speed, not slow voice. Volume is high, speed is slow, so that's why we want to make our hearer to be understood very easily. Here I want to give my example. I'm running a medical transcription company, and I think I have started with my family, with my daughters, and 10 years back. Now we are very expert medical transcriptionist. I'm not doing this job right now because of busy schedule of university job, but my two eldest daughters, they are doing that job recently also. And in the start, when I started to communicate with my clients who are in America, or sometime in British or Ireland, so when I started to call them, the receptionist or the lady who attended my call, or the male person who attended my call, there were many times I had to listen, sorry, pardon, I can't understand you. So most of the time I got irritated. So then I realized why I have to listen many times, or in the start, especially in the start, I have to listen that sorry ma'am, I couldn't understand what are you saying. Can you slow down, or can you speak in a slow way, or in a with slow speed? So then I realized maybe my accent is different. So difference with the accents, maybe American accents or British accents. Although there are some difference because I am speaking in Pakistani accent, so that's why maybe there are some sounds problem, phonological issues, or there are some other different issues could be involved. So then I realized that I must speak in a slow voice, also in with slow speed. So then when I started to convey my message in a slow speed and with the gradually and slowly I conveyed my message. Although they couldn't realize that the native speaker, as you can understand, native speaker all are very speedy, and we have also to face many problems during this conversation, but we have to understand. But I was, when I have to face problems, so I asked them, sorry, I couldn't understand your problem, please repeat your message again. So that's why when I lower my speed or with the but I can say gradually I sent my message, then the issues were started to resolve. Then after I think after 1 month I didn't hear that word. Sorry, pardon, I couldn't understand your message. I couldn't understand your point of view. So I modified my behavior. I modified in the way that I need to convey my message in the start with very slow speed, and volume I try to try to make my volume rather higher, so that because we are not in the process of face-to-face communication. When there is a face-to-face communication, there are least chances of communication breakdown. So this channel is also disturbing, or distracting, because we are far away. We are in the process of which both speaker and hearer are living far away. So we need to modify our behavior, or we need to change, we need to rethink about conveying our message process. So face-to-face communication has the great advantage of providing instant feedback. So we can understand facial gesture, we can understand by the movements of the body parts, with the moving of the hands, or if there is a frowning overhead, or there are what we can say cues eyes, or what we can say, there are a lot of things that we can understand by our facial expression, facial features. We can not facial features, facial expressions. So we can get advantage by face-to-face communication, whereas when we are involved in the oral talk, in the phone call, or we are giving our written message through emails, etc., so there are some sort of problem also in coding and recording the coding and recording the messages, or sometime feedback could be delayed in this way. So what are the barriers to intercultural communication? We will start very soon. When we wish to communicate internationally, we rarely see the whole context. The result is that we often have difficulty in fully understanding the situation. The outcomes are as follows. We have to make decisions about how to behave on the information we have, which is often incomplete. So I have given you my own example. So here we can say we have to fill in our ignored contextual information. We use our own already pre-programmed expectations to do this. So as a result, we often make mistake in perception, interpretation, and evaluation. Pre-programmed expectations that we are always okay, we are whatever, we assume that whatever we say, our hearer and listener will be able to understand very easily. So don't assume that, and don't pre-programming, and don't believe on pre-programming expectations. So there are chances, think about that, there are chances of communication breakdown in the communicative process when we are in the foreign context, when we are in abroad, and we are doing conversation, or we are chatting, or we are interacting with the other people, other community members. So we need to be careful about these things also. So number one is there, what are the barriers to intercultural communication? Ethnocentrism. Yes, our culture is the best one. Yes, our tradition is the ideal one. Our country is the best country of the world. We are the best people. So we are the best nation of the world. So this this is human intrinsic, and this is a human nature, what we can say. Whatever or whichever is associated with ourselves, that is the only best one. So ethnocentrism is also the main first, very first foremost reason what could be in the way of communicative process. So we tend to judge other cultures according to the beliefs, values, and traditions of our own group or culture. So that is different. We don't like the things that are different. We don't like the traditions and norms. If we are wearing a full dress, so when we will see being a lady, yeah, especially we are taking a abaya and we are taking head scarves and we are covering our head with the scarf in with the different things, so we see that we are the right one persons righteous person. And when we see other people and some other people in our community even, so when we see them and they are not covering their bodies properly, we see that they are wrong. No, we don't assume this one by apparent condition, by apparent dresses, or by apparent things, and that we don't assume that the person is not good one. No, everyone could be. There is a best person or there is a good person we can find in every human being. So we must not assume these things, that the things which are different from us, the culture that is not as similar to our culture, it could be not a good one. No, it's not. We do not assume these things. So ethnocentrism may be said to be almost universal. So everyone likes his or her family. Everyone likes his or her nation, country, dressing, lifestyles, eating styles of food, or whatever the things that we can relate with the human being. So ethnocentrism may be said to be almost universal. Members of nearly all of the world's culture regard their own way of life as being better than even closely related neighbors. We often ascribe generalized, unfounded, and negative attributes to other cultures, as we have discussed already in the under the heading of stereotype, as we have discussed. So it's related to some time stereotype we can understand. So our reactions can be summarized as follows: ignorance, so fear and anxiety, or laziness. Ignorance from what? Ignorance from other cultures, from other people, from other religions or history or other customs, values. So we don't know about them. We don't have proper or appropriate, or what we can say, the complete information about other things. So ignorance is also could be one reason of a communication breakdown. Then there is a fear and anxiety. We are often afraid of novelty, embarrassment, and conflict. We suffer anxiety and stress because we do not know what to do in certain situations. So in foreign countries, in foreign land, in foreign situation, most of the time we need to be very careful. The things that are different, we do not take stress or anxiety, or must not be fearful about the things. We must know that the difference is could also be the, what we can say, could also mm, strengthen our knowledge, or in what way we can enrich our knowledge and information we can get because of this difference between different cultures. So laziness, we are also often lazy sometimes for good reasons such as time pressure. So this makes us reluctant to learn and practice, to learn and understanding. We also often prefer to take the easy way out by assuming similarity rather than attempting to understand the actual cultural differences. So the things that are similar to us when we are staying in foreign land, the people who are, we see that they are according to our own mind, they are according to our own mentality, or according to our indispositions we like those people very much, and then we want to make them friends, or what we can say, we want to proceed in this situation. We want to go ahead. The people who relates to our cultures, who resembles with our own feelings and with our own mentality, we want to make friends with those people, rather than the people who are different one, who have different lifestyle, who have different cultures. And during my stay in Malaysia, I have also experienced this thing, that in many situations, Pakistani students, especially female students, they prefer to make friends just only the friends who are Pakistanis only. Although we could find over there many multinationals friends over there, there were Arab ladies, there were some other, what we can say, Indian, there were Bangladeshi. So we don't want to mix them, although we had better chance to understand their culture. But the main thing is the language problem. But we cannot say, staying at a campus or the campus life, we are we are well familiar with the English language, and the English language as a lingua franca, we can understand them very easily. So this thing, that because of laziness, we must and we have fear and anxiety, maybe other person could not like us, maybe there are some other things that could be not according to our expectations. So if we find exposure in foreign countries, we must probe more and more about other cultures, about other people, about other traditions and norms. We must understand, we must try to understand those things that are different from us, not the similar things. So our reactions to a cultural situation which differs from our own experience often follow the sequence given below. We observe what is happening. We try to communicate. We find it difficult to understand. We interpret the situation according to our own limited knowledge, our own values, and possibly limited experience. We become judgmental and stereotype, and often in frustration make our prejudices apparent. So we must avoid all these things. Next, number two is cultural diversity. Although it's related what we have already discussed. Different cultures have different norms and expectations of behavior in both formal and informal situation. For example, social interaction, meeting or negotiations. A lack of awareness and understanding of these differences can create misunderstanding and in extreme cases even offense. So in our Asian countries, or especially in our Pakistani Islamic community, if a stranger, a male stranger, can say assalamu alaikum to our female stranger, so it will be very offensive, and there are some sort of very critical consequences could be arisen. But during my stay in Malaysia, it was normal over there. A stranger male can say assalamu alaikum to a stranger female. Even once I was walking from the street, and there was a Malay man, and said assalamu alaikum with smile, and I was very surprised why he said assalamu alaikum to me, and it's not a good thing. But with the passage of time, I knew that it's normal over there, there's no bad things. So these sorts of things could be arisen when we are staying in cross-cultural communication setting or exposure. So we must be careful about this cultural diversity. There could be many situations that could be different from our own. Next barrier is assuming similarity with one's own culture. So most of the time we want to find out similarities between our cultures and other cultures. So we skip this point, that we must understand the differences also, as we are already discussing this point. So here we can see the British and American, although apparently there seems there's few differences, but when we observe their lifestyle or their other things, that there are many differences we can find out between two cultures, British culture and American. So next barrier is stereotypes. Already we have discussed a lot in our previous lectures, and you have done your midterm exam about this concept. I think you have experienced a lot about this stereotype concept very well. Stereotypes can be described as a group of beliefs and attitudes towards people who are members of another distinct group. So some sort of what we can say, some sort of pre-existed knowledge. On the basis of pre-existing knowledge, we make some sort of judgments about other people who are different from us. So people form pre-established expectations about how members of other groups are likely to behave and what they believe in. Experiences often do not fit into our preconceived categories, and we are then faced with ambiguity. So we must be careful about the stereotypes. When we are in alien land, we are in foreign country, or we are in foreign context, or exposure, many things could be in a different way. And as I have given you example in the start of our this course, in the starting lectures, I give the example hot tea and cold tea. So in the lifestyle, there could be many different things in our eating style, or in our, we can say, in our dresses. Here in Pakistani concept, according to the Asian concept, we are very much concerned about our status, or about our dressing, or about our personalities. But during my stay in Malaysia, I thought the people are very simple. Even professors, I witnessed with my eyes, even the professors, at many occasions, there were some parties over there. I have attended some functions and parties conducted by the university, and I have seen professors who were sitting on the grounds, and they were eating their lunch or their things with their hands without any spoon, and they are too much down to earth. I observed them in the exam, and really they are very true, what we can say, true Muslims, and very down to earth they are. Even I have observed when at the time of 3 or 4 o'clock p.m., and I was crossing the office of one of my, what we can say, teacher, and I saw a professor who was coming out of his office, and what he was doing, can you imagine that? A full professor, or what we can say, he was doing the process, what we can say, he was emptied his dustbin of his office by himself. Can you imagine that? The professor who is emptying or vacating his dustbin of his office by himself. Really, I was stunned to see that. And he was coming out with a smiling face, or he was talking with other people. It was a normal, it was a routine, it was not a special. Can you imagine that in our Pakistani context? Any professor who is doing this job? No, I cannot assume this one. Even we cannot think about this thing. So things could be different, and I think the things that are different from our culture, we must learn from those things rather than criticizing them. Or rather, yes, I have seen some Pakistani community members saying that, no, it's very bad, professor must not do this thing and that thing, and he must be some sort of status conscious. So it's not a job of the professor to empty his dustbin by himself, it's a job of the office boy. But we can't see office boys over there in their offices, because they do their work by themselves rather than depending upon this maid cultures or servant cultures that we have developed in our countries. So they do their things by themselves. And it's also a sunnah of our holy prophet Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who performed his duties, or who performed his actions by himself, and most of the tasks he did with his own hands. Our Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we have very noble examples of our Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we must learn from those things, the things that are different from our culture, rather than criticizing them, and rather than pre-establish expectations. No, they must do this in this way and they must do in that. So here we can see some other examples of the stereotyping. Asian students are victimized in Western institutions by native students, although they give the hollow slogan of democracy, or that they are very civilized. In most of the cases, we see that our Asian students, they are irritated by Western institutions, or they are sometimes they are what we can say victimized by native students even. Or then another example, racial stereotypes reflects racial prejudices, anti-Islam or anti-Muslim stereotyping perception of the world. It's also could be a main reason. So racial stereotypes, as we have seen, George Floyd, who was killed by a police officer recently in America, and there are protesting going on. So it also indicates the racial stereotypes, because they think that we are the perfect, we but white people are superior to black people. So these racial stereotypes is also very bad. We must avoid this thing. Stereotyping can take two different norms: traits that we admire, ambitions, modesty, cleverness, bravery, or traits or characteristics that we deplore or dislike, laziness, stupidity, or lack of ambition. So there are two types of, or two different stereotyping. So we must follow the number one, ambition or modesty or cleverness or bravery. These sorts of stereotyping are admired, rather than this laziness of the. Yes, in during my stay in Malaysia, I also observed the things. The Malay people or Malay ladies, they are not very active as compared to our own ladies. We Pakistani ladies are very active, very what we can say, very smart and very active. They are rather obese. Not every lady or not every other woman that we see over there, they are obese or fat, but here, as compared to Pakistani community, ladies, they are rather obese, and they live in the comfortable zone. They never try to come out of their comfortable zone. Pakistani ladies, they are very really, I admire them a lot. They are really very hardworking, they are very really painstaking, or they are very sincere or dedicated. So laziness is not like this stereotyping, or stupidity or lack of ambition. So these things are not liked by the other people. Next, there is a perception. Perception lies at the very heart of cross-cultural communication. We all tend to categorize our experiences in order to make sense of the world we live in. The problem is that when we encounter a new world we are not familiar with, we are faced with ambiguity, which in turn causes insecurity. The things that are not clear to us, the things now those things makes us insecure. As I have given you my example, that a strange Malay man, he said to me assalamu alaikum, and I felt insecure. Oh, what happened? It must not be the things in this way in our country, and why this is happening over there in Malaysia. So we feel some sort of insecure, or faced with insecurity, our natural tendency is to fall back our own norms and values and perceive the person we are dealing with is an alien and even hostile. And sometimes we don't like the things, but with the passage of time, we realize those things, and we say it's a normal, it's not a in what we can say extraordinary, or we must take it as a normal. So differences in cultures are very often because of the differences in the perception. So what we see the things, it's according to our perception. So that's why we take the things in a different way. The problem is that when we communicate internationally, we often misunderstand the total context. We make mistakes in the perception. We see things negatively, and the speaker, his or her involvement would consider totally non-confrontational. So here I want to give another example. I was sitting the bus. I was going to the shopping mall, and I was in the university bus, and it was a specific timing of the university bus, and it started at 4 p.m. to continue this bus service to 9, I think 8 or 9, sometimes 10 p.m. So I was going in the bus, and I was sitting on the seat when I have done my grocery, and I was coming back to my campus. In the seat, nearby seat, there were two Nigerians were sitting over there, and I think they were husband and wife, because the husband was saying we have a large grocery, or we have many shoppers with us. So the seat is very congested. So and I was sitting alone. I was sitting in the parallel of their seat, and I was sitting alone, and I was not having too much grocery because I was staying single over there at that time without my family. So my seat, almost the second seat, was almost vacant. So he said to his wife, or the lady who was sitting beside him, he said, so you must go over there in the nearby seat, or in the that lady is sitting alone. And what does that lady said, no, 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 I will not go over there, because she had very bad experience to sit with another community member in the bus, maybe in the bus, or she's many things. And I have, sometimes I listen and sometimes I ignore her talk, but she was not speaking in a very good way, and she was using some not good words. So she said, no, I will not sit. Maybe she would not like me, or maybe she she will be irritated by me. Or I didn't say anything, but I just listened to those people in what way they were talking. So she was having negative attitudes about other community members, and she said, because we are black and mostly people don't like us, so maybe I will shift over there, I will sit on that seat. Maybe that lady, she was pointing towards me, that lady would not like to my sitting over there. So these are the negative or negativity already that we have in our mind. It could also be the communication cause of the communication breakdown. In China, Japan, and to a lesser extent South Korea, it's important not to criticize anyone directly in order to save the face of the person being criticized. So they avoid the things that do not criticize in a direct way to other people, so that the people be must not be irritated by this criticism. Here in Pakistani context, we are very fond to criticize other people, and we don't hesitate to say anything about other persons. But in educated setting, I think people are more conscious to say something about other people. The potential for communication failure is therefore greatly increased when the sender and receiver do not share the same cultural perceptions. So, if there are different cultures, definitely there would be different perception about different things or about different settings. We often assume other people experience the same physical, intellectual, and emotional reactions as we do. We believe that what's pleasing or distasteful to us is pleasing or distasteful to others. So this is not the thing. Sometimes the things that are very dear to us, that are very like to us, we like the things too much. Maybe those things are not liked by other people. So the things could be in a different way. Here you can see different perceptions about different people. The first one, heaven, and the second one is hell. So first one, heaven, how Swiss people see the things in what way. The police are British, where the police are British, the cooks are French, the mechanics are German, the lovers are Italians. It's all organized by the Swiss people. So what we Italians say, the police are German, where the police are German, the cooks are British, the mechanics are French, the lovers are Swiss. It's all organized by the Italian people. So there is too much different perception about the same thing. So Swiss people and Italian people. So it's all about the different perception about the different things or different cultures. So the problem is often that despite all our best efforts to suspend our judgment as we have been taught to do and to avoid stereotyping and be tolerant to differences in other cultures when we are under pressure and stressed, we need to recognize that other people are not better or worse, just different. So we must feel that difference. Even our own culture, even we can see, we can look around our neighbors, look around our other relatives that are some sort of having some sort of difference with us. It could be the difference with the opinion, it could be the difference with the style or lifestyle or eating style or different things. We must not think, we must not assume that this is the better one or this is the worst one. No, we must say this is the difference, and then that things are different from us. To ideal with others successfully and to control our own feelings when faced with ambiguity or insecurity, we need to do three things. What are those three things? Accept differences, recognize ignorance, or take responsibility. Accept. What we need to accept difference. People are different, exposure is different, culture is different, language is different, lifestyle is different, eating style is different. We must accept that difference. Recognize ignorance. Yes, recognize ignorance. Yes, it could be possible that maybe we don't have proper knowledge, we don't have complete knowledge about other people, about other community members, about other traditions, norms, values, lifestyles, cultures. So we must feel this thing. We must think about our shortcomings or about our limited knowledge about other contextual information, or take responsibility. We should accept responsibility for our feelings and reactions when dealing with others. So if we are not behaving good with other people, or we must also take responsibility that we are the but we can say the problem is with us. So we must take responsibility, we must modify, we must alter, we must change, we must console that the situation by taking this responsibility. Next, there is a star approach. To apply the star approach to reduce the communication breakdown, or to reduce the barriers, or to lessen the barriers of the communication breakdown, communication process. Star approach. From where we have to start. We have to start with the stop. Stop here. When you have to stop? You have to stop here when the things are not clear to you, when the things are complicated, when you are unable to understand your speaker. You are here, you are listener, and the speaker said something. You are indulged in the process of communication, or you are doing chat, or you are interacting with other people. If you are unable to understand, you need to stop. Stop and then look in what way the other people or other person or your speaker is talking about, in what way, eh, and what he's saying. You have to see and observe these things, and then you have to listen and feel what sort of manner, in what way, or in what style the person or speaker is talking about. So you have to feel that thing, you have to feel that behavior or attitude, in what way is he polite, or in what way he or she is talking. So you have to feel the tone, you have to feel the behavior, you have to feel the style or manner of the speaker. Next, the number 4 is that don't assume. Yes, don't assume the things, although we make some sort of assumption when we are dealing in this process of communication, but do not assume, because sometimes it could be dangerous, because sometimes our pre-existed knowledge and our stereotypical knowledge may be dangerous for us, and it can stop the communication process. Next, We must, if we are ambiguous, we don't know the things, we must ask. We must ask again. We must ask again, and we do not feel hesitation. If the person is polite, we must feel, and if the person is not, maybe he will not mind, we will ask the things again. So we must ask. We must ask the things that are not clear to us, that are not understandable for us. So it's not very bad thing. It's a common, it's a normal. So the last thing is we must ask. So this end of our today's lecture. Take care. Allah Hafiz.